What's up, guys? As you guys know, I don't have like a podcast or anything specific. You know, I don't do the whole interview type of thing, but I do like to just chit chat with cool people, and we chop it up, have some fun, talk about what we're working on, talk about business, life, what it's like to be young and wealthy, like this young stud over here.
I don't know
Just
about
a
all
straight killer. But yeah, I'm here with Tory Sheffer. He's been a good friend of mine for a couple of years. When did we meet? 2018?
2017.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
so 2017, I was selling houses in Michigan, and I saw David. I don't know how I found your Instagram somehow before he was the real estate Jedi.
At David Toupin.
I knew David before he was cool.
That's cool.
No, but somehow I found your Instagram or something, and I saw that you had bought a 12 unit, or I think both of your 12 units at the same time, and I was like, that looks really cool. And I had been learning and listening to podcasts and listening to books and whatnot on how to get into apartments and doing that sort of thing. And then I saw David doing it. I was like, this guy looks super young, and if he can do it, why couldn't I do it? So
Yeah.
I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I want to buy you lunch. I want to figure out how you do what you do, basically. So
Went to Buffalo Wild Wings in Royal Oak.
went to Buffalo Wild Wings in Royal Oak, and I just peppered him with questions for like half an hour. And then after, it's like we really didn't know each other, but I had a bunch of my questions answered, and I was like, cool. Go from there.
Those are always the best when you because you can tell when you meet someone, and I've met with a ton of people that really want to get into the business, and there's a lot of I'm gonna, or I want to do it. But you can tell when somebody actually will go and do it. Like, you won't hear from them for 6 months, and they come back and they're like, yo, I've got a deal under contract. It's like, I know that fucking dude took what I said and he actually put it into play and he went to work.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I basically was like, hey, what are you looking for in a deal? Because in my mind, I didn't have zero money, but I didn't have enough money to buy $1 million apartment building by myself, and not even close. And so what I was like, obviously you're young and you didn't have a ton of money doing it, and I knew I couldn't go out and do something like that on my own, because it was just like, you don't know what you don't know kind of deal. So there's a lot to learn, and things that you don't even know you need to learn that you need to learn.
Yep.
So in my mind, the best way to do that is go find someone who's doing it and just copy and paste rather than reinvent the wheel. And that's what I did. So we had lunch, and I said, what are you looking for in a deal? And he told me in kind of the areas or whatever. And then, so I went out and made a mailer and made a list of deals that match that criteria. And then I mailed that out to a bunch of apartment owners.
Love it.
Because I knew if I got a call on that mailer, I could call David and we could do it together. He could lead the way and figure it out. And that's exactly what happened.
Which is exactly what happened 2 years later.
So 2 years later, and found a deal.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2017 to 20. Yeah, last year, 2020, we did that big deal. Dude, that was insane. So I think we met up one more time in between. You came out and you're like, okay, now how do I analyze deals? So you're like, okay,
yeah.
So
I bought your analyzer.
Yeah.
I bought the spreadsheet, and then I was going through it, and I still didn't really know how to use it. And I think that was before you made the video on how to use it.
Probably.
So then I was like, hey, I want to see how you use it and actually see how he goes through it. Because then I learned more by doing and by seeing people rather than, trying to just figure it out. I could figure it out, but it would have taken forever. So I went over, I think I paid you $200 for an hour.
That's right.
To come over and see how he walks through the entire analyzer. And then from there, I basically just
pay to play,
find deals, put them in, basically just practice. I mean, it was like going to school, but I was my own teacher and David was the teacher, and there was nobody keeping track of me besides myself. And I knew I wanted to do it. So
self-accountability. I mean, like I said, you really can tell who's going to do it and who's not going to do it. And if you're not going to take it upon yourself, you can't just sit in a classroom or just hire a coach and expect all this great stuff to happen, because it's not just going to happen, right? You actually have to spend a shit ton of time on your own going through this stuff and learning it and practicing, teaching yourself. You can't become an expert without putting in the time. And that's what you did.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I started learning and being interested in this stuff in 2016, 2017. And then it was 2020 before we closed that first deal. So that's 3-4 years of I want to do this. And then you got to, there's the learning curve that you got to try and catch up. And then once you get into that first deal and do that first deal, that learning curve just explodes. Yeah. And then now I've done several deals after that on my own, and it's going really well. Yeah,
it's going really well. You're on a roll, dude.
Yeah.
On a roll. So Tory comes to me, and there's this market where, a couple markets where I really like back in Michigan, where near where I grew up and near where Tory lives. And Tory calls me, he's like, yeah, I've got this portfolio, these bunch of smaller properties. And I'm like so focused on buying bigger properties at the time and like 100 plus units. And you find it's 230 units, but it's across 11 properties. And I'm like, but these are in fucking A-class locations. And it was a mom and pop seller using a broker that was really cool dude, but he wasn't like specifically a multifamily broker. So, I think they saw, like, you and I came together and they saw like, oh, there's this big group from Texas coming in, and I mean, I'm not like a veteran in the industry, but the way I present the company is such that we're experienced buyers, and we take on deals of this size, and we actually beat out a ton of local groups on that deal that really wanted that project, and that was just a killer project. Is what I think is the coolest project I've ever worked on, was that deal.
Yeah, that was crazy, because I remember when I first got the email response from the broker. So my mailer hit on a 56 unit that they owned, and that was the biggest property that they had. And then he emailed me at first and was like, hey, we have 11 other properties. Are you interested in those too? And I was
when you hear that, normally you're like, what do you mean? But it was like, actually, it was a legit deal.
They actually had. So it was
the family-owned portfolio.
It was the family. It was the kids of the original developer who was still managing all these properties. And that was just like I call it like, that was their silver spoon growing up, right? Because the one was an attorney. He didn't have hardly any of it. And then the ones who didn't go to college got, this $15 million real estate portfolio, tough life. But, it worked out for us. And he's like, we have these 11 other properties. Are you interested in those too? So I called Dave. I was like, I don't know if I'm interested in them. Like, I think so, but I don't know. So I called David. I was like, hey, they have all these other ones. Do we want those too?
Dude, when I saw the list, I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, those things were gold mines. So, and it was just kind of like that learning curve, even for me. Like, looking back now, it would have just been immediately, and we probably would have paid them like $1 million more to get them. Mm-hmm. But it was, I think, somewhat from where we started with our offers helped, not knowing exactly what all these properties had, because then that set the expectation a little bit for the sellers on a smaller scale. Yeah. I think if they were in the market, they probably would have got maybe $2 or $3 million more for the total portfolio. So
essentially, yeah. And it was in the middle of a crisis. I mean, we were under contract on them during COVID, like before COVID happened.
Right before COVID happened
in like February of 20. And then shit hit the fan, and nobody was lending, nobody was doing deals, like everything paused. And so I think it was still a good opportunity for us with all that going on. This family, they wanted to sell their portfolio. So it was a win for them, because how many buyers want to buy 11 properties of all these varying sizes? Some people want to buy just single large properties. Some people want to buy small ones. It was an awkward portfolio for one person to come in and buy. And a couple local people wanted it, but they lowballed them. And we came in with a strong offer, good terms, because I'm down here in Texas, I'm used to like 5 caps. And so, we made them a good, strong offer, which ended up still being great for us. Ton of value on the table. Like, they managed these properties really well, actually, good and bad, right? They kept them up extremely well. They managed them well. They maintained them well. They were fully occupied. However, they did not market them well online. Their rents were significantly below market. Significantly. Sometimes up to $500-$600 below, in other circumstances, $100 to $200. And we recognized that opportunity that, hey, we're buying these for whatever, 15, 16 million, but these things can be worth 20 plus $1 million when we're done. And so we get in there, and what we ended up doing was kind of chopping it up. We bought a couple ourselves, a couple we JV'd on, a couple we partnered with another kind of end buyer where, we took a small piece of the deal and they kind of took it over and ran the rest of it. I wish we bought them all. I mean, hindsight's 2020 always, but it was so much going on with COVID. I was doing another couple big deals, and it was like, this is just a good little opportunity to dice it up. We cherry picked some of the best properties in the portfolio, and the rest of them, we worked with another buyer and got a cut of that deal. So just a sick property, 200 plus units.
Yeah, that was that
was life changing. So that was a game changer for you, right? And I mean,
that
personally
was,
and financially, like you get ownership in a couple deals. We got some big fees on it too, some big checks, like multiple 6-figure checks. And I mean, that was
yeah. I mean, it's like I said, like I was selling real estate. I was doing well at that. I was selling close to 10 million a year. For a couple of years leading up to that, I was doing really well by real estate agent standards in Michigan. But it opens your eyes to another level of multifamily. But the reason I even started to look at it is because I'm an agent in Michigan, and I'm looking at, okay, long term, I see myself in Michigan. My whole family is there. My wife's family is there. Probably we're going to be in Michigan long term. So if I stay as a real estate agent, what's kind of my peak? What's the most amount of money I can make in a year? And I look at the number one agent, and she's like a 4th generation real estate agent, works nonstop, like works insane hours. She's always working, but she sells a ton. I think she
makes like $1 million, $2 million a year.
Yeah, so she sells like 100 to 130 million a year, which is excellent in real estate agent standards. But that's probably taking home, $2.5 to $3 million a year after expenses and costs, and she's got
1.5 after taxes.
Yeah, probably 1.5 after taxes. But
which is still a lot of money.
Who knows what else she has? But $1.5 million, $2 million. For me, that was always like the goals that I want and things that I'm looking for. I knew that what I wanted was going to be more than that.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And you look at multifamily and people who are real estate investors and developers, and you look at someone who's making $1 million to $2 million, they're like at the bottom of the pole.
Yeah.
Like they're very low. Like, I mean, like obviously we're below that now, but it's the people who are at the level of top real estate developer, they're billionaires. Top real estate agents are not billionaires by any means, or not even close. They're not even $100 million people. Mm-hmm. Unless they own their company, and there are a few different people that do that, are probably worth close to 50 to 100, but very, very few. You have to own
like huge brokerages to do that.
Yeah. And then you're just managing people, and that sounds absolutely miserable. You're more of a therapist than a business owner. Yeah. So
yeah, doesn't sound appealing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't for me. But apartments are great. So then after this first deal we did, and, got a piece of that, and
you didn't waste any time. You went right into the next one.
Yeah. So I actually had on the mailer that I sent that we got this first big deal. And then from that deal, I was going to make more money on that deal than I made in the past year, probably almost close to 2 years after taxes and expenses and write-offs, I guess. So,
wow.
That was basically from one deal. I mean, granted, it was a $15-16 million deal. So
a big deal.
It was a big deal, but it opened my eyes. Like,
and you weren't even full-time working on that, right? I mean,
no, not even close. I mean, I spent I guess because you were leading that deal.
A couple hours a week for you.
My time on that deal was just so minor. Yeah. But I was like, hey, if I can do this on one, then there has to be more out there.
Oh my gosh.
And if I'm doing it with deals that I'm spending more time on, then I can get a bigger piece of, and I can do this and, this, that, and the other thing. So, but on that same mailer that I sent on the first one, I got another call from a guy who they had bought a 24 unit. It was in Fenton, which is like 5 miles from where I grew up. Like I was born and raised right in that area. So I got a call from that guy right around the same time, and then he quit answering my calls back because I was trying to get a T12 and all this stuff, and they didn't really have it because this guy owned over 100 hotels and he did big retail developments. He was working on a $25 million old folks home, and he didn't really have exact numbers on all this, their apartments, because
sure,
it was a $2 million apartment building. For him, it was useless. He didn't really need it. They didn't manage it well. His kids had bought this property originally in 2005, and they were going to do a condo conversion, and the timing didn't work out, and the market crashed before they had it ready. So
wow.
I called him basically and hammered him, and then he quit answering my calls, and that kind of went stale, but I kept driving by. I was like, I really want to buy this property.
Sure.
and I knew it was a good deal.
What was that time frame start to, like, when he said he'd sell?
So he had said he would sell in the fall of 19, and then he basically fell off the map and quit answering my calls. And then it was like early spring, probably April 2020. When I got a hold of one of his secretaries.
7, 8, 9 months, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a hold of one of his secretaries.
Follow up.
I think it was like April or March.
Okay.
And then I got an LOI, and we actually eventually agreed on the price and terms and everything. And then we closed on that one in November. So it was November 6th of 2020. Nice. So, total process for that was over a year.
Yeah.
But it was just like they didn't care about this property. And then that was the first deal that I was doing on my own. So there was a learning curve there. But I was able to find investors for it and put my own money into the deal, and I had made money on that deal. So now I had some money, and I had a lot of confidence. I was able to do all the earnest money. I was able to do all the attorney fees, all the inspections.
And you had all this contacts lined up from the deal that we did.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I had all these contacts, and then I had the money to be able to do it. So I think I had like 30 or 40 grand out on that deal before we closed.
Deposits and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Which isn't that bad for that deal that you did. That's good.
No, yeah, not that bad. It's a 24 unit, and we're renovating it right now, and it's going really well. I mean, the rents before were $850, and we're spending about $8,000 a unit, and we're getting rents at $1,250, and even looks like we're going to be getting a little bit more. But
wow,
it's really, it's leasing up really well. But I'm hoping to be done with that property in a month, and have it fully leased and good to go. And then in a year or two, we'll refinance, and it'll hopefully give the investors all their money back and give them a good return along the way.
Now, when you get investors their money back, do they stay in the deal?
In this one, yes.
Does your split change or no?
No.
Okay, stays the same.
So this one I just did 80-20 cut and dry, and it was part of the reason was because it's my first deal. So I want to be able to prove myself before I, take the farm.
Get more aggressive.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to, prove myself and take a smaller piece and show, hey, here's what I can do. And I know what I'm doing. Which I do mostly.
Oh, you got it down, yeah.
But it was,
that's dope.
I didn't want to take all of it, and I wanted to give them more upside because I knew that there's going to be deals down the road. I want them to be interested in doing more deals with me.
Sure.
And tell other people.
Now? You're 27, right?
I'm 27, yeah. I just turned 27.
Yeah, and you've done 300 units worth of projects now between our 230, the 24, the next one. You did another one.
230,
Linden, right?
24, and 33. So,
33.
Close to right around 300.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And these ones now you're just self-started. You're finding them on your own. You're putting them together. You're doing it all. I mean, that first one we did together, but like now you're freaking running.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can probably do up to 100 unit deals, right? No problem.
Yeah. I think I could do 100 units. Yeah. Pretty easily and raise the money for it.
Love that. Dude, but Tory is a hustler. Dude, you're going like every day. You get up. It's like it is your business now. Are you still an agent? You still do retail?
I still am. Yeah. I mean, I still do some. Right now,
are you every day like actively prospecting like an agent? Like you're doing more. You're trying to transition more to the investing stuff, right?
Yeah. So prospecting, I don't do any for, as an agent.
Yeah.
So
it's like
basically, it was like a year.
That trickle in, you'll do.
What is it right now? It's May. So basically, in January, February of 2020, I quit prospecting for houses to sell and turned completely to prospecting for apartment buildings to buy.
Oh, that's dope.
So I haven't marketed for selling houses in a year and a half, but the pipeline is so long that I still have stuff trickle in. So I still did pretty well off selling houses last year, even though I wasn't putting much time or effort into it. But it did pretty well. And then, I still have a few things going this year. So it's still going, but it's very few, and I don't do it as actively. I don't actively seek it out.
You realize that the wealth creation for you in the next 5 years is investing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get a bit of equity in as many deals as I can and keep it going. So, in the next 3 to 5 years, I think it'll be a completely different picture.
Yeah. You're not a realtor anymore.
No.
Not a realtor. This guy's not a realtor. This guy calls homeowners and he asks them, he's like, hey, what'd you sell your house for? And they don't tell him. They're like, well, some people don't want to talk about that. It's personal. And he's like, Listen, I could find it online. Just tell me what you sold, or tell me what you bought your house for. I think I can get you more. Like, let me help you out here.
Yeah. So I had
Tory's
a guy
a no bullshit kind of guy.
back when I was cold calling for houses. I had this guy, and he had a rental property. It was in Troy. He was getting like $2,500 a month in rent, and he wanted to sell it for like $430,000. And I don't know how it ended up coming up talking to him, but I was asking him, I kind of wanted to figure out where he was at basis wise, as far as what he was going to net at the end of the day to buy this house, or, if he were to sell this house, what's he going to net? That way I can, show him the picture. Hey, you're going to net $70,000, $80,000 after you pay off your mortgage and fees and whatever. And I asked him, what would you pay for it when you bought it? And he's like, oh, I don't really want to tell you that. And this is like it's public record. Like, I can look this up.
Michigan, you could look it up.
Like, I can look this up in 4 seconds. Like, just
fucking tell me.
I know. I can find out in 4 seconds what you bought your house for.
You can trust
just
me.
Tell me. It's not
I'm
that
a
hard.
professional.
Yeah. So that was.
That's funny. Okay, I want to let's tell one more story, because this story is fucking hilarious about the wholesaling. So Tory's all big shot after we went and wholesaled a couple apartment buildings, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I could wholesale a couple more apartments. This is going to work out." It was great. So what'd you do? You put a deal under contract. You didn't really even run. You're just like, whatever. It was just a deal. You took him whatever price he wanted, right?
Yeah. So one of our buddies, Adrian Salazar, I was talking to him last summer, and he said that basically
wholesales a lot of deals. Yeah.
He said basically whatever deals that they look at, if they don't want to buy it, and Zach does the same thing, Zach Harith, whatever deals they don't want to buy, they'll find someone else and they'll wholesale it and get a piece of it, and it's it's going to be a little bit better than the commission if you were to list it. And so I came across this. I had a client as an agent, and he was from California. He wanted to invest. He was looking at a fourplex. And then I was talking to the seller, trying to set up showings and things of that nature. And the seller says, yeah, I have these 2 duplexes in Hazel Park, which is like an extremely gentrifying area right now in Michigan, pretty close to Detroit. But it's really, it's crazy how much it's coming around.
Yeah.
So
that place was a shit show 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's still not that nice, but like it's coming together more.
It's coming together. Home prices are going from like, they were like
125,
$30,000 probably in 2009.
Wow.
And now they're like 200. It's crazy.
Wow.
But so he had these 2 duplexes there, and I was like, that's a sweet area. I'll buy these duplexes. So he wanted like 330, or I think he wanted 330. And I was like, okay.
For the 4 units.
For the 4 units. And I was like, okay, I'll give you 310. And he's like, okay, deal. So I was like, sweet. I'm going to wholesale
He's
these
like,
things.
who's this idiot coming in for 310?
Yeah, right. Probably. So I was like, all right, I'm going to wholesale these things. It shouldn't be that hard. I had like a network of people that wanted to buy duplexes and, small deals. If I were to sell them separately for like $180,000 a piece, I'm going to net whatever. And so was my mindset. So I put them under contract with no EMD, 10-day inspection period. So I basically I might have given myself a 2-week inspection period.
Nice. Okay.
But I basically was like, all right, I have 2 weeks to sell these things. If someone else doesn't want them, then I'll just kill the contract and be done with it. And so I hadn't seen these properties, so I set up a tour with him to go look at these. And
you had blasted it out prior to that, right?
I
use
blasted
under contract
it out.
now, and you sent it to some buyers or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I blasted it out to a few different buyers, and I was answering their questions about it and all this stuff.
They probably sent it to all their friends too. Once you send an email like that, people forward it.
Yeah,
It goes
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of people are, they're doing this with other people. So they send it to a guy who sends it to a guy who invests in that area and knows these properties. And
who ends up showing up to your tour.
It's a quick cycle. Yeah. So we toured one and it was no big deal. We toured another one. It's no big deal. And then I'm out there talking with the seller on the road by his car. And this guy pulls up and starts looking at this building. And we were just both looking at him like, who is this guy? Like, what kind of shady thing is going on with these renters who are here? Is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then the guy looks at me and he goes, "Are you Tory?" And I was like, "Yeah,
I'm Tory." Like, and by the way, guys, you don't want the seller to know you're wholesaling a deal when you're wholesaling a deal,
right?" Because
like,
the seller's like, "Well,
Tory does not want the seller to meet this guy that's staring at his property that somehow figured out Tory's trying to flip him."
Right. And I didn't know who this guy was, but he had emailed me or whatever, and
yeah, and he just shows up.
And he shows up when we're there. He's like, "Are you Tory?" I was like, "Yeah."
Tory just
like,
instantly is like, "Fuck me."
Yeah, so I walked over to him. I was like, yeah, what's up? And the seller goes, who is this guy? And I was like, oh, I was talking to him about how I had investors and these are the deals. And so I said, oh, this is one of my guys.
This is one of my guys.
That was like the first thing that could come
You can only
up.
imagine this guy walks up, oh, and hey, Tory, I see you're selling these properties. And the seller's like, you're selling these properties?
Yeah,
Tory?
exactly. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, this is one of my guys from, one of my apartment groups. And let me go talk to him and I'll see you later. So luckily the seller was like, no big deal. He left and I went and talked to the other guy for like 2 seconds. Damn. But the thing is that the buyer didn't know I was wholesaling these either. Yeah. At that time, I didn't know how to wholesale. A lot of wholesalers were like,
so the buyer's like, who's that guy you were talking to?
Exactly.
Oh, dang.
So and then at that point I was just like, all right, this wholesaling thing, not for me.
Not for me.
so then like the next day, I think I killed the contract on it and I was like, this is done. And the seller, luckily, he's like, hey, I got another guy who's interested. What do you think after the tour? So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be for me. So didn't burn the bridge, but it was basically like the wholesaling thing. I'm not going to chase that at all. Yeah. So
no, I mean, situational. If it works out, it works out. If not,
Yeah, I think more like if I'm under contract on a building and someone comes along and makes me a real offer that's crazy, then yeah, a wholesale. Sure. It's like what happened on our deal. So yeah, sure, I'll do that. Twist my arm to take 20% over what I'm paying.
It's gotta be a sick deal. Yeah, right. Makes sense.
But as far as actively going out to wholesale, and the thing is like I've always judged wholesalers too, because you get wholesalers who are like, okay, here's this house for $100,000. It needs 30 grand of work, and it's going to be worth 450. Yeah, and it's like not every one of them. A lot of them are full of shit.
Sure.
So I quickly realized I was not a wholesaler. I didn't have the skills. There are guys who do it well, but I didn't have the skills.
And honestly, I'm not. It just that one deal just worked out.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a deal that's got a lot of equity in it, and you're like, well, I don't want to have to raise all the money and put this together, or take the risk on the loan and do this project, and I can make $500,000 or $1 million, which is what we've done a couple times here. Sometimes it's worth it.
Right. Yeah. Twist my arm, I'll do it.
Twist my arm, I'll do it. So
you're gonna give me $1 million more. All right.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's rare, obviously, but it was a big deal. So it made, percentage-wise, it was really not too crazy of a price that they paid over. And what those guys paid, I mean, even on our deals that we kept, like our Royal Oak deal, the 20 unit, the rents were like $900. We're spending $25 a door.
We're getting $1,700.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane. And the next one is coming available in I think the next 2-bedroom is coming available in August.
It's July 1st, and it's already paid for and leased.
Already paid for and leased.
$1,700 a month.
Yeah, 3 months early.
Plus, they're paying all utilities now.
Yeah,
insane. That one's a keeper. We're keeping that one forever.
Unless someone wants to pay us $5 million.
Unless someone wants to pay us $5 million, we'll sell the property. Yeah, $5 million is the price.
Maybe we'll get one of those 3.5 caps like Austin's getting these days.
It's happening. It's a good market over there. Hey, listen, everything's got a price. I mean, except your family. Everything's got a price.
Yeah.
So everything's for sale. You just gotta pay the pooch
and have somewhere to put the money when you sell it.
Yeah, you do. Unless Biden takes away 1031s.
Yeah, so we got to do it before then.
You got to vote that guy out of office.
Yeah, that's a whole nother mess of problems.
Whole nother mess of problems.
But use the tax code and do what you can with it.
Yeah. Love it, dude. Well, hey, thanks for chatting with me for a while here. This is fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down to Austin and hanging out. We're cooking up some cool things down here. We're working on a couple of unique deals that we'll tell you about.
Yeah, should be fun. I was looking at I just sold my house, and looking at moving to Arizona, but now we have a few deals cooking. So it's like Austin is almost,
maybe you'll move to Austin.
Almost a real possibility. So we'll see.
It's almost a real Zach's laughing over there. It's almost, let's get him in, man. Hey, 180 people a day net migration to Austin. It's like, it is one of the fastest growing markets in the country right now. So it's a place to be.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be.
Doesn't suck.
Good weather.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time. See you soon.